Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, How to Finally Take Control of Your LTV. My name is Eliana Raggio, and I'll be your moderator today. And today's webinar is being presented by DEALERUN. And for anyone who isn't familiar with DEALERUN, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, and we're best known for our search engine optimization, best-in-class customer service, and our award-winning websites. Recently at NADA, DEALERUN received the Best in Show Award for Website Design from Dealer Marketing Magazine, and DEALERUN was named the top-rated website provider by Driving Sales in 2012 and 2013, and it's official, DEALERUN customers have been winners of the Digital Dealer Website Excellence Awards, highly coveted overall winner 4 times in a row. We're the only website company that can claim that. DEALERUN is so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that we're the only company in the industry to offer a money-back lead guarantee program. So does your website company guarantee you leads? Well, then maybe you should check us out at DEALERUN.com. And we have a great show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have Jason Ezell as our presenter today. Jason Ezell is the president and co-founder of Dataium LLC, the largest aggregator of auto shopper behavior data in the industry. With almost 25 years experience in the automotive industry, Jason Ezell first managed dealerships for over 8 years before being invited to join Autotrader.com's first sales team in 1989. He then started one of the most unique and respected website companies in the industry. As a member of the J.D. Power's Internet Roundtable, an NADA 20 Group Preferred Speaker, and a Digital Dealer Conference Speaker, Ezell is well known as an expert in automotive Internet for his statistical approach to analyzing user data to better understand how to sell cars on the Internet. He can be reached on Twitter or at jason@dataium.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, don't worry, we're going to respond by email to you later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of the webinar recording will also be emailed to you later this afternoon for your reference, so please feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. And we have great news for all of you attendees out there today. Our good friends at Dataium are going to be awarding a prize to 5 of you lucky attendees today. That's right, you get 5 chances to win. Now, what are some of you going to be winning today? Well, let me tell you, it's a far cry from a light-up pen, my friends. 5 of you lucky attendees are going to be winning Dataium's Red Alert tool for 12 months. That's nearly a $600 value. So if you want to throw your name in the hat to be selected, all you have to do is stay on the broadcast and be one of the first people with the correct answer in our quiz at the end of today's presentation. And if that wasn't awesome enough, well, at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey, so fill it out because we're always looking for great feedback from our audience. And today we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all the completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. So we are definitely going to have some fun today. So let's get started. Let's learn how to finally take control of our LTV. Jason Ezell, my friend, it has been far too long since I've had you on my webinar. So glad to have you back. How are you today?
Doing fantastic. Good to be here. Always appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much for being here today. And I'm very excited about this webinar. Tell everyone what we're going to be learning about.
This is from the experience that we've amassed over this last 3 years in consulting dealers and working with the data and analytics that we have. We've come up with some best practices based on the analysis that we've done for thousands of dealers where we look at LTV, lead to visitor ratio, as a formula and not a single metric. I'll explain more about that in a minute. Very important way to measure your success of the performance of your website. We also want to learn the origin of quality traffic, and that traffic typically comes to you through Google, but the origin of that traffic is very important to understand where your ad dollars are best working for you upstream. We also want to look at pitfalls in website lead conversion. What areas of the website are defeating the purpose of getting traffic converted into leads. And there's definitely some best practices that we've seen that can lead to a higher lead conversion just from simple changes on the website. And then we want to look at, after learning the entry points, the origin of the traffic, and the way the site performs, we want to look at some metrics for measuring success besides LTV as a standalone metric, there are other metrics we want to look at to measure the success of the performance of the website and the online strategy.
Yes, and then after all of that automotive awesomeness, we're also going to have a question and answer session. So if you have questions for Jason, please send them on in. We'll probably hold them until the very, very end of the presentation. But question and answer session is usually our audience's favorite part. So Jason, take it away. Thank you so much.
Excellent. So what Dataium does real quickly, so that you know where this data is coming from, is we aggregate data from thousands of sources. In fact, over 13,000 automotive websites, most of which are dealership websites that we have permission to be on, so that we can give those dealers their own metrics with comparative metrics. We also pull data from OEM sites, automotive marketplaces, any digital marketing campaigns. All of this data from all these online sources that are out there, we aggregate into one master database. We normalize that data, and we spit that data out into multiple reporting formats so that we can harness and take control of all the massive data out there and turn it into usable, actionable metrics and dashboards that tell us exactly what shoppers are doing today that help us know how to prepare tomorrow. So in this process, we can see a shopper's behavior from first keyword all the way to lead submission, and we're able to put together kind of a pathway of their shopping experience. Most people think it's a very simple process. They see a TV ad, perhaps, that draws them to a certain vehicle, that prompts them to go online to a manufacturer website. They typically continue down the funnel. They perhaps see a banner advertisement of a car that they're interested in. That leads them to an automotive marketplace. Regardless of where they are in this sales cycle, they typically will find a car that they're interested in, whether that be on an automotive marketplace or elsewhere. They learn about the dealership that that website is on, and they immediately go to Google your dealership and end up at your dealership website. That's a great process, except for the fact that you only have visibility, to the direct traffic from these upstream advertising opportunities. So with your cars.com, your auto traders, your banners, very few people link directly from those websites to your website. The vast majority of those people go by way of Google. Once they found the car and found your dealership name, they simply use Google as the taxi to get from point A to point B, which is your website. So we have to look at the metrics that you're using, whether it be Google Analytics or your web provider metrics. There is direct inbound traffic can be measured, but the bigger story is this indirect traffic that is where awareness of your dealership was created upstream, and they merely used Google as a taxi to find you. This is your ultimate ad spend, and this is where we want to track those folks coming into the website. So, for example, when we look at typical website metrics, we're looking at visitors to a website. This will be part of the Red Alert tool that we're giving away today. We can see the blue line represents traffic to your dealership website. But what you've not had the luxury of in the past is, am I doing good or am I doing bad when compared to other dealers in my market or other dealers who sell the same type vehicle? So for the first time, you can have comparative metrics so that you can see how your website performs against other websites in your market. And that's a very key element. If you only have one score on a scoreboard, you don't know who's winning the game or who's losing. You need some point of comparison and some point of context, and that's what we're giving you here. So what's interesting to look at is, for example, we see a nice spike in traffic on this day, on the 11th to the 12th, where auto shopping in your market was actually flat and on the decline. You had a spike. So whatever marketing campaign you performed on 3/11 had a good effect in driving traffic to your website that was not realized within your community. We see the same anomaly here on 3/15. This was a very effective advertising campaign, whatever that could have been, a direct mail piece, a TV ad, but we can see that it drove traffic to your website that was not organically generated within the market. At the same time, we want to look at those market influences, where here we see a spike that was realized in the market, and here we see a decline in traffic during a period where auto shopping in your market was also down. So this helps us understand, are things broken? Are we not doing things properly? or is this merely a result of a lower traffic day or a lower traffic week within our market? So this really helps give some comparison, a point of comparison to say, are we doing well or are we doing poorly, and in which of these metrics can we focus on and exceed? Looking at the same dealership, when we look at actual lead submission, going back to my earlier story about lead to visitor, we typically take total visitors and divide by the total number of leads, and we get a number that is a lead to visitor ratio. But it doesn't really tell the whole story because we have these other metrics in between, which I'll go over in just 1 minute. But if we're looking at total visitors to the website, as we did previously, everything looks great as we're outperforming the DMA and the national averages. But when it comes to lead submission, we can see that oftentimes we fall well below the market average for lead submission in our own market. So where we had a nice spike in traffic on the 11th, it was actually a very low lead submission day. So we know that that traffic was perhaps not of high quality that we would have wanted because we didn't get the leads that we wanted out of that. So here again, we look at what points of what marketing efforts were effective in not only driving traffic, but more importantly, in generating leads, which are the spikes here in the blue. And where did we have a day where we had very few leads compared to other dealers in that market? And this really helps understand what marketing efforts are working and which ones are not as effective, and helps you weed out those efforts that perhaps are not generating the quality traffic. So this is what we want to focus on, and we've looked at thousands of dealership websites. We have over 10,000 dealership websites in the network, and we love helping these folks do simple consultation because very small changes can have a huge impact in overall lead submission. What we look at is, going back to our LTV, lead to visitor, seems to be the major metric that we use in the industry to measure website performance. But it's a hard number to move because it's such a small number, and there's other variables involved in that lead to visitor ratio that we need to focus on to determine if lead to visitor can be improved. Where can we make those improvements? So we want to break down lead to visitor ratio into a formula and not just a metric, and that is total visitors that you drive to your website. We want to look at, first of all, how many of those visitors bounce, which means they come to your website and they leave without ever performing any sort of search activity. So we want to minimize our bounce rate and maximize active shoppers, which are the shoppers that actually get past the home page and engage in some sort of shopping behavior. So we look at total visitors, we look at how many of them get past our home page, how many of those visitors perform vehicle searches. We want multiple vehicle searches out of the same visitor, and then we look at vehicle detail page views and multiple VDP views per visitor. And this is the formula that helps lead to the ultimate goal of getting more leads out of the same amount of visitors. So let's look closer at some of these metrics, and we'll be able to see exactly where the pitfalls of lead submission within the website are. So in driving traffic, I believe we have a poll question here, Eliana, if you can help us with that.
Absolutely. Audience, if you could, please check out your screen and answer this question for us. The question in front of you is, what amount of your traffic comes directly from search engines? Now, hopefully this is something you know, or it's something you can suspect, but we want to know what's happening at your dealership. So if you've heard of a number thrown out there before that's like a national average, that's not what we're looking for. We actually want to know what's happening at your dealership. So what amount of your traffic comes directly from search engines? And please select one of the following answers. Is it less than 30%? Do you feel it's between 30 and 40%? Is it between 40 and 50%? Maybe it's between 50 and 60%? Or are you one of those people who says that they're getting more than 60% of their traffic from search engines? Once we get a majority of the votes, we're going to close the poll and share the results. And boy, oh boy, Jason, wait till you see the answers that are coming in. It's all over the board. We still have votes.
Just as you would expect.
All right. We still are having votes coming in. Thank you so much for getting involved with the poll questions and the giveaways and the survey questions afterwards. We really appreciate all of the engagement and activity that you, our valued audience, give us every week, day in and day out. So we are going to close this poll and share the results. Are you ready for this, Jason?
Oh, yes.
Okay, here we go. Well, 38% of today's audience said that they're getting more than 60% of their traffic from search engines. 38% of that. So that's pretty good, I would think, right? A quarter of today's audience, 24%, said it's more like between 50 and 60%. Only 19% said it's between 40 and 50%. 14% of today's audience says it's between 30 and 40%, and only 5% of today's audience said that it's less than 30%. Jason, does that align with what your data is showing?
As far as the majority of the poll, it sounds like it's exactly right. We are showing on average of the 10,000, 11,000 dealership websites we have, that on average about 70% of that traffic is coming to you directly from search engines.
Wow.
Obviously the vast majority.
That is a lot of traffic just from search engines. I didn't know.
It is, and this is a combination of all three major search engines, being Yahoo and Google, and obviously Google represents about 65% of this 70%. And so obviously that's we all know that, but it's interesting to know exactly what's the total traffic coming from search engines. But I think the more important stat that we're looking at is our next poll question. And I hope I didn't just ruin the survey. But more of the people who come to your website via a search engine, it's important to know how they're using that search engine to find you. So what's our next question, Eliana?
Well, the next question is, so of the search engine traffic that you are receiving, how many shop and search for your dealership by name? How many of those people that are coming to your website from a search engine do you think are actually typing in your dealership name to get to you? That is a great question. Are they just finding you by happenstance, or are they actually typing in, ABC Ford dealership? So please select one of the following options. Do you think 40% of your traffic is coming from people who are typing in your name directly? Is it more like 40 to 50%, 50 to 60%, 60 to 70%, or is it a staggering more than 70% of your search engine traffic actually know your dealership's name? Whatever you think is going on at your dealership, we want to know. So once we get a majority of the votes, we're going to close this poll and share the results. Votes are still coming in. Thank you so much for taking part in our poll questions. And I'm going to let this go on for about another 5 seconds, then we'll close the poll and share the results. You ready for this, Jason?
Always.
Always. I know you are. Okay, here we go. We're going to close this poll and share the results with you. Okay, let's see. We're going to go in order. 9% of today's audience said it's less than 40%. Another 9% said it's between 40 and 50%. 27% of today's audience think it's between 50 and 60% of their search engine traffic know their dealership name. The winner was actually the next one. 32% of today's audience said that it's between 60 and 70% of their search engine traffic actually writes in the dealership name to get to them. And 23% of today's audience said it's more than 70%. Jason, what do you have to say about those results?
Well, I tell you, again, it's a very savvy audience. We're very close to that. We see a whopping 79% of that search engine traffic is using the dealership name or some variation of that name as the keyword search. Now, this is very important. It's a huge number, and it's very important to understand when we're looking at search engine traffic, there's different categories. We have organic, which is free to the dealer. It's what the website does on its own organically by having the right optimization built in. We see people coming from pay-per-click and people coming from search engine marketing. But a whopping 80% or almost 80% know about your dealership by name prior to going to Google. What we want to learn is where do they learn about your dealership name to use that as the keyword, and that's where your ad dollars are working the best for you. So Google Analytics, if you use that tool, they do have now an attribution piece built in where they can tell you where people were prior to using your name as a keyword in Google. Our company also does analysis exactly like that, as well as other ones. So it's important to look at not only the direct inbound traffic, but where were those people before they Googled you and came to your website directly, and that's where we want to allocate our ad dollars. So when we look at keywords, keyword searching, dealers are spending a lot of money on pay-per-click and search engine marketing. They're trying to buy their way to the top of these searches, but it's very interesting in how consumers use keywords versus how we purchase keywords. For example, less than 1% of all vehicle searches contain the word dealer, dealership, or dealers. Now this is very ironic because all dealers want to show up first on a search result of Ford Nashville, Ford dealer Nashville. You want to be at the top of that result. That is not an inexpensive keyword to buy in on because all dealers want to get their way to the top. The problem is the average consumer does not use the word dealer, dealerships, or dealers. They're simply looking for a specific car. So we are misallocating our pay-per-click dollars towards words that we think are highly effective that actually consumers don't use as keywords at all. Conversely, we look at the word price. Anytime you see the word price in a keyword search, those are very serious shoppers because they are at the point in their search where they're looking for a price. That represents only 7% of all keyword searches, which is a little bit higher than our 1%, but those folks are 6 times more likely to submit a lead, and they submit a lead in about half the amount of time that a normal shopper would. So when we're looking at the word price, your website can reflect the word price multiple times throughout the website so that organically your site should show up when there's a search done specific to a vehicle price. Or you can use price as a pay-per-click model or strategy where you want to buy your way into any keyword that is automotive associated to your brand and includes the word price. These are very serious shoppers, they're low funnel shoppers, and they're lead submitters. So this is an interesting analysis to look at pay-per-click in a different way, and that is from the consumer perspective and not what we think consumers are doing during their search. Now, when we look at traffic to the dealership website, as we talked about before, we know that a lot of that traffic, 65, 70%, comes from search engines. What we want to know is where did that traffic originate? And this is what we found. About 30% of your total traffic is coming directly from organic search results from those search engines. This 30% does not cost you any money. This is what your website does on its own if it's constructed properly, and this is free traffic to you. We also see 31% of your traffic is typing in your website address directly in the address bar. That's a great number because we know that they are aware of the website address. They have seen traditional marketing or online branding, and they either have bookmarked or typed in your URL directly, and this is extremely high-quality traffic when we look at people who type in your website address. This 33% of traffic actually comes to you from referring websites, websites where you can post your physical inventory or where you have a dealership presence. Those websites are referring about 33% of your traffic to your website. The problem is this traffic to you appears as though it's coming from Google, which it is, but they're using your name as the keyword, and the originating source was from a referring website where you have your vehicles posted. So we can see search engine traffic representing a large percentage of your overall traffic, but how does that break down? And we can see that referring sites are generating 33% of your traffic, only they're coming to you via Google. Pay-per-click generates about 6% of your total traffic. It doesn't ever get much more than that. You can double or triple your pay-per-click spend, and it will only move this number a very small amount because we're focused on the larger pieces of pie of people who know that you exist or sought you out by name. So very interesting how we allocate our ad dollars. Dealers are looking at their web metrics that tell them most of my website traffic comes from search engines. Therefore, they allocate the bulk of their advertising dollars to search engines, but you're only ever going to get about 6 or 10% of your traffic from those efforts. And this is what we're looking at from a dashboard perspective. So the traffic numbers over here, these are all website statistics. This is the same metrics that you get from your web provider, from Google Analytics, that shows traffic on your website. But what we're looking at here is the origin of that traffic, even though Google sits right here in the middle. So we know that AutoTrader might have sent you 8 leads last month. However, when we look at the indirect attribution, we can see that AutoTrader also drove 2,000 unique visitors to your website. And of those 2,000 unique visitors, they performed almost 5,000 inventory views and submitted 28 leads. Now, normally, these 28 leads would appear as though they came from your search engine marketing efforts, when we can see that they actually originated on autotrader.com and used your dealership name as a key term, as a keyword search, and ended up submitting leads at your website. We can see the same thing for Black Book, Kelly Blue Book. Anywhere that you spend money or post your vehicles or advertise your website, we can look at the indirect attribution of the traffic that's generated at your website and what that traffic ultimately does. Now, what's interesting is we look at Kelly Blue Book and Black Book, which are trade evaluation websites. For people who've been to those websites and then continue on to your dealership website, they do submit leads through your website, but we see almost 2 to 1, they're submitting service leads. They've evaluated their trade-in. They they brought it in for an appraisal and didn't get what they felt that they should for it, and now their decision is, do I fix my car and trade it, or do I trade it as is and take the hit and put that money towards a down payment? So what's interesting is those evaluation tools are actually generating twice as many service leads as they are automotive leads. And as we know, service leads are equally important. It's a huge revenue generator for the dealership. So this is a very interesting analysis to look at, is where are my ad dollars working for me upstream, and what is the effect at the dealership website level? All home pages are not created equal. This is what we found in another poll question here, Elian, and we'll get this question before we move further, because this is also interesting data.
You got that right. All home pages are not created equal. So, audience, we have a great question for you now, and hopefully you know the answer about what's happening at your dealership. So we want to know, what is your current website homepage bounce rate? Hopefully that's something that you've been checking out and covering. We want to know, is it less than 40%? Do you think it's maybe between 40 and 50%? Is it between 50 and 60%? Is it more than 60%? And hey, if you don't know, you don't know. You can also select that answer as well. So once we get a majority of the votes, we're going to close this poll and share the results. And just so we're clear, Jason, while people are sending in their votes, explain to them the definition of bounce rate.
Exactly. Bounce rate are people who come to your website and they never click past the home page. They either came to your website through a generic keyword search, and the website wasn't exactly what they were looking for, so they hit the home page, they realize it's not where they wanted to go, and they bounce off. And that's the type of traffic that we want to try to minimize, and we want to try to go after traffic that actually converts into automotive shopper behavior, physically searching for vehicles and looking at vehicles. So bounce rate is simply the amount of traffic that comes to your website and never gets past the home page.
There you have it. Okay, everyone. Well, we have lots and lots of votes in. Thank you so much for getting involved. And, you know, it's funny. We have people who are commenting on this question as well. For instance, Bruce wrote in, is bounce rate really that important anymore? Jason?
I do feel it's one of the more important metrics to look at, as long as you can look at bounce rate by source. And that's the key element we want to look at, is of the sources that I'm using to drive traffic, what is the bounce rate of that source, which is a direct indicator of the quality of traffic that you're getting from that advertising source.
A bounce is a one and done regardless of the page they start on. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, how about this? Let's close this poll and see what our very savvy audience had to say about this. All right, we're going to close this poll and share the results. Well, an astounding 70% of today's audience said that their bounce rate is less than 40%. Fabulous! 4% of today's audience says it's between 40 and 50. Another 4% said it's between 50 and 60. 9% of today's audience said it's more than 60%, and 13% of today's audience said that they actually didn't know the current bounce rate for their website homepage. So Jason, what do we get from these results?
Yep, very interesting. And this is what we look at as one of our first indicators of lead-to-visitor ratio. Of the 12,000, 11,000 dealership websites we have in our network, the average bounce rate from the homepage is 63%. That's a very high number. Now, also consider the people we have on the phone are typically the higher savvy dealers because they're on this webinar in the first place. And so I'm not surprised that their bounce rates are lower than the national average because the national average takes into account a lot of really bad websites. And so the national average being 63%, I'm glad to hear that the majority of the people on the call are seeing much lower bounce rates at around the 40%. That's excellent. Because what we look at is the bounce rate from a search results page is only 34%. So what this tells us is we know that consumers coming to your website are very specific in their purpose, and that is to search for vehicles. So if we bring them into the website into a search results page, we automatically cut our bounce rate down by over half as if we drive them to a home page that might not be conducive for shopper activity, which we're going to look at next. So I do see bounce rate as a very important metric to look at because if we can drop this bounce rate even 5%, that helps all of the metrics increase, ultimately lead submission. And I'll show you how that works in just 1 minute. So this is a nice visual representation of what we're looking for in high-performing websites versus low-performing websites. And again, as we monitor over 11,000 dealership websites, there is a wide range of performance success of those websites, anywhere from the lowest being less than 1% lead-to-visitor ratio and the highest being over 12%. That's a huge range when it comes to lead-to-visitor ratio. How do we know how to maximize our own lead-to-visitor ratio, and what are those best practices? So as I scroll through these home pages, we're going to look at these, and we're going to determine what is unique and what is the same, or what are the similarities that we see with these home pages. And as I go back and forth, one thing that you'll notice immediately is there is no question what these websites are selling. These are automotive websites, and we're selling cars. The home pages are dedicated to inventory. We can see lots of ways to search inventory. We see lots of inventory imagery. We have huge search boxes here, specials here. This is what people are coming to your site for. In fact, 74% of all your traffic are coming to your website to find a specific vehicle. So the easier we make that for them and the more conducive we make the shopping experience, the higher engagement rate we're going to have and the lower bounce rate. Now let's look at the converse. These are some of the lowest performing websites that we see in our network. And what's the similarity here? We're not selling cars. As I flip through these home pages, you see so little vehicle imagery and so little ways to search inventory that these are inhibiting visitors from being able to surf this website and find the vehicle that they're interested in. So we can see the similarity in these low-performing websites where all we're selling on this site is zeros. we're giving everything away, but we don't even know what car. So it's very important that the website, as elementary as it sounds, reflect the ultimate product and what we're trying to do, and that's sell cars. So it's very important that the homepage itself be reflective of the dealership, but more importantly, the product that you're selling. So when we look at how to maximize our homepage effectiveness, this is a click map. And these are really interesting to look at because this shows us how thousands of shoppers engage in our website. Every click, every green dot is a click from a consumer. So when this dealer came to us and wanted to redesign their website, the dealer principal wanted to get rid of the search boxes on the right, feeling that they were very old school, that this was a very bland piece of real estate, and this could be used for better purposes. What we saw when we did the click map is this is probably the most important piece of that homepage, is the drop-down menus to search vehicle inventory. It's been around since 2000. Consumers are used to it, and frankly, is the fastest way to find a specific vehicle. We can also see the navigation buttons at the top. Used cars is highly peppered. Specials is the second highest clicked page of a dealership website. The problem is over 70% of dealership websites never have a special on their specials page at any given time. That's a huge lost opportunity because we know that consumers are clicking on specials as their second highest click page of your website. So as we continue looking at how consumers engage, homepage specials, inventory on the homepage, highly effective, a lot of clicks. We look at our social media tabs, almost no clicks at all. So if we're going to use social media, let's not use our most valuable real estate at the top of the page to promote pushing people back upstream out of your website. These are better off at the bottom of the page, and we can see they're not being used very much at all by consumers. We want to dedicate the homepage to inventory, product, and searchability. We look at what's your car worth. This is a terrible graphic. You can see that there's only 8 or 9 clicks out of the thousands of clicks that we have. The dealers are paying for this product, this trade evaluation tool, but simply the aesthetic is a deterrent to auto shoppers. It's black. It's a very obscure image. The wording is not very inviting. What's your car worth? Click here to value your trade. So in looking at a click map, we made a few changes to the website. Very simple. We moved the navigation to the left-hand side where it should be, meaning everything that people do on that is Windows-based or computer-based, all the navigation is always on the left-hand side. Just like we read books, just like we do everything else in life, we go from left to right. Your major search components should always be left justified. By doing so, we decreased the homepage bailout rate by almost 20% by simply moving the drop-down menu to the left-hand side from the right-hand side. When we look at the trade-in offer, all of a sudden we changed our graphic, and we put the control back in the hands of the consumer to make this much more consumer-friendly. Take control of the dealership when you trade in or sell your car. This is much more inviting. It's much less intimidating for the consumer, and the click-through rate on this product increased almost 27% just by changing the graphic and the wording in the invitation. So very small changes can make a huge difference in website performance, and both of these changes would cost nothing, and we were able to dramatically increase the performance of the website. So much so that when we look at starting the analysis and versus as we consulted this dealer throughout the course of 4 months, they were very low performing, 60% below the DMA average for lead-to-visitor ratio. They were capturing about 17 leads a month. As we worked with them to help redesign the website, you can see how their metrics went up dramatically. They went from 60% below DMA average to 17% above the DMA average. Lead submission went from 17 leads to 128 from the same website. So this is a perfect example of how to look at your website through the eyes of a consumer and be able to maximize that website's effectiveness for that shopper so that we can increase our ultimate lead to visitor ratio. And understand, we didn't go after leads to fix. We went after the first metric, and that's bounce rate. We wanted to minimize bounce rate first and foremost and work through the rest of the formula, and ultimately lead to visitor ratio was positively affected. The next piece, once we get them past the home page, obviously we want them to look at vehicle searches. That's our bread and butter. That's what we're selling, and that's what we want to spend our time investing in so that it's very consumer friendly. This is a beautiful search results page. We have the vehicle images. They are color keyed to match the color of the vehicle in stock. I have all the vitals, but here's what's important. We have the MSRP price. We have our internet price, but we found through consumer usage, the one number that means the most to them is the amount of discount. For some reason, they don't do the math in their head. When they see MSRP and internet price, it doesn't immediately register that that's almost a $4,000 discount. So by showing the savings, this number tends to attract more shoppers than an internet price or an MSRP. This gets a lot more click-throughs into vehicle detail page views by having this amount of information on the search result. Also, on the left-hand side, I can immediately dive into other type of vehicles without redoing my search criteria. I can look at body types. If I'm not sure what model I want, I can look at styles of vehicles, and I can go straight to a stock number or VIN number if I know what those are. So this is a very high converting search results page that gets better results into a vehicle details page. Conversely, even though this looks almost the same as the slide before, let's look at the differences that make this one of the lowest performing. Here we have our vehicle images, but we have storm blue as the vehicle in stock. Our stock image is red. Here we have cayenne red as these two vehicles, only our two red images are different reds. So nothing really correlates. We're not promoting the vehicle properly, and we're not promoting it in the best light because we're not even showing the right color. Also, what we're looking at here is very odd in that we have an internet price with no MSRP. So I can't do the math on my own. I don't know what discount you're providing me. I don't know if this is a good deal because all I have is one number. I have no point of context. So ironically, this, and I had to click here to request a sale price. So it's implying that the internet price is not my best price, but I can click here and submit a lead and perhaps get a price that's better than the internet price. So it's almost contradicting itself right here on the same page. Whereas before, our call to action is check vehicle availability. This is the #1 inquiry of all leads submitted is this car still available? So in this sense, the dealer made that button reflect that most popular question, and it's check vehicle availability. This is very non-threatening. It's very non-committal for the consumer, and this gets, again, high click-through rate on this search results page versus one that is not structured in the best way for the consumer. We look at good versus ugly. This is exactly what we see.
Not good versus bad, it's good versus ugly now.
Yes. So we look at, and that's what we want to see, the good, bad, and the ugly. If we only look at the good, we don't know where to improve. So we have to look at where are we failing. When we look at traffic to the website as a metric by itself, we might think everything's great, we're doing a great job, and our website is performing at its maximum efficiency. When we look at searches, they've gone drastically down. So of the visitors that we had come to the website, we had very few vehicle searches out of those visitors, and we're well below the national average and well below the brand average. So the problem with this site is, just looking at these two metrics, is we're doing great driving traffic, but our home page is not conducive for vehicle search. So just in looking at these two metrics, I know exactly where to focus my attention, and that is getting more people into my inventory by restructuring my home page and making it easier to find a specific vehicle quickly. Now, the second step, or the third stage of the formula that we looked at, once we get people engaged in vehicle searches, we want to get them onto a specific vehicle details page. That's our bread and butter. That's where we get our leads, and this is the product that we're selling. This is one of the highest performing lead submission pages we have in our network, and we can see why. Everything we want to know about the vehicle is very easy to find on the left, all the vitals. Our images are excellent. We have a multitude of interior and exterior pictures. We have branded the dealership beautifully throughout this page. We have our mileage and get your e-price. We know the MSRP. We know the posted sale price. And here, again, I can click and hopefully get even a lower price by being an internet customer. So this is this is a perfect layout. There's our toll-free number. There's our general manager with an email. And here are our other shopping tools. This is a very highly effective vehicle details page because it's nicely consolidated. Everything I want to know is right here, and I can easily submit a lead from this page. Now, conversely, let's look at the other end of the spectrum. Here we have a 2013 Nissan Altima. I have to call for MSRP price, but I posted an internet price. We have some of the vitals, but they're a little hidden. Our transmission is variable. I'm not even sure what a variable transmission is, but this one has one. We're looking at a storm blue metallic car with a red stock image. So we're just not merchandising this vehicle in the best way. And this is exactly what consumers want to see, is the actual car in the actual color with multiple interior and exterior pictures to look at. So we've taken a little bit of a step backwards here on the effectiveness of this details page, and this is at the bottom of the spectrum. Here we have almost no vitals on the car. We have no exterior, interior color. I don't see any pricing relative to this vehicle at all. And I see stock images on a vehicle that I'm not even sure if this is the right car in stock. So we can see how we've gone from good to ugly, right? The first one was very good. No offense to our dealers here, but this is a very poorly designed details page that will not promote lead submission. So now that we have followed the shopper from coming to your website all the way through the vehicle details page, let's look at actual lead submission. Going back to our original pie chart where we looked at where does traffic come from, my kids always ask me, Daddy, where do leads come from? My kids, unfortunately, are forced into the automotive business, and so they are experts in website analytics, and so they always want to know where leads come from. So let's look at that. Again, the bulk of our leads, over 50% of your leads, come from people who type in your URL directly. So it tells us branding your website, branding your dealership, putting that website address on the license plate frames going out of every car that gets delivered off your lot, advertising that website address in as many ways as possible is your best source of lead submission, by far. Your second highest source at 25.6% are those people who come to your website from a referring website like a cars.com or other places you have your inventory or dealership posted. Again, these people are coming to you through Google, so it's hard to measure, but it does represent 25 or more % of your total leads are those people who've been on automotive portals. 22% of your lead submission comes from organic. So again, this is traditional marketing. Organic is free to the dealer, and referring websites is a very wise investment that drives traffic to your website indirectly, but it's 25% of your total lead submission are coming from people who've been on those third-party sites. That's a huge number. So when we break down the sources and look at them individually, automotive marketplaces like your cars.coms and your Edmunds and your anywhere that you can post inventory is your highest converting lead type. These people convert to leads at an average of 10%. The national average for a website is 1.6. We look at organic website traffic to your organic traffic to your website converts at an average of 5.7%. People who type in your URL convert at an average of 6.8, and your pay-per-click traffic converts at an average of 1.4%. So we can see exactly when we're looking at quality traffic, where do we put our ad dollars to drive the high-quality traffic that actually converts into leads. So what's interesting now, when we do get the lead submissions, after we've maximized the flow of our website and we're getting leads submitted, what's important and what's beautiful about the internet is the amount of data that's being thrown off from these folks shopping for cars. So now when you get 3 leads all in the same vehicle, up until now, all these leads to you look the same. But when we put a profile on these leads based on their shopping history, we can see a very unique difference. Lead number 1 is very early funnel. They've only been in the market for 2 weeks. They've not submitted a lead. They've not been to a dealership website prior to yours. And they're looking at minivans, SUVs, and crossovers. Their number 1 search term was best family vehicle, which does not necessarily correlate to an F-150. So here we have an early funnel tire kicker. We still want to cultivate this lead. We still want to get them in, but we know we're not going to sell them probably in the next week or 2, but we do want to work with them and cultivate that lead and graduate them into a purchase. Whereas the other end of the spectrum, lead number C, or letter C is a serious Ford F-150 shopper. Their key term was best used pickup. Their top 2 vehicles of interest are used F-150s. They have been to an automotive portal, which makes them more likely to submit a lead, and they've been in the market for 12 weeks. So now that we understand a little bit more about these leads when they come in, we can have a better sales approach to these folks by understanding what their hot buttons are, what their vehicles of interest are, and how long they're and what their intensity is by knowing how long they've been in the market. So to sum up, this is probably the most boring slide we have, but it's going to be the most intuitive. It's amazing when we look at those 5 metrics that we talked about earlier, from unique visitors to leads, how that formula tells us exactly what we need to do. And Eliana, I got so excited about my highlighter function here, I'm going to use this. I've been doing this for 10 years and finally realized I actually have a highlighter built in my PowerPoint.
Which literally, I told him literally 5 minutes before we went live today. He's like, what? I never knew that.
And drawing. This is fantastic. So let's look at, for example, look at this night arrow here. Here are sites that we would think or would be our, well, I'm sorry, let's start down low. Let's look at our high-performing websites. If we're looking at traffic versus leads, these websites were at 13,000 unique visitors, 10,000 unique visitors, 9,000 unique visitors. Up top, we would think that these are 2 of our lowest performing websites because they had the fewest number of unique visitors, 8,000 and 4,000 respectively. But look what happens to our numbers. The 2 sites up top are actually our best performing websites. We have 8,000 unique visitors. They performed twice as many searches as I had visitors. You always want to see searches being at least double what your visitors are. They looked at 26,000 inventory views from those 16,000 searches. Again, inventory views, each number needs to be higher than the previous if your website is maximizing opportunities. Here we have 148,000 page views off of 8,000 users, and we got 300 leads, 304 leads. The website right below has half as many visitors and the same number of leads, 300 leads out of 4,000 visitors. But look at our metrics. We had 4,000 unique visitors. They performed almost 8,000 searches. They had 67,000 inventory views, which means our inventory, our details pages were very well addressed, very well maintained, and we were marketing our vehicles extremely well. And out of 84,000 page views, the majority of those page views were inventory views, which is exactly what you want to have happen. Up top, we see there's a bunch of page views, 148,000 page views, only 26,000 are inventory views. So I know exactly where my fail point is. I'm doing good driving traffic. I have a good home page that's converting those into vehicle searches, but I've got too many page views, so the number of inventory views that I'm getting, they're getting lost in the website before they get to inventory. So if I can minimize the ancillary pages that are not getting traffic or that are disturbing traffic, I can maximize my inventory views and ultimately increase my lead submission. So on the other end of the spectrum, on the sites below that would first appear to be highly effective, we have 13,000, almost 14,000 unique visitors, but look at our searches. They're half as many vehicle searches as visitors. And this goes back to the original question, is bounce rate a really an important metric? It certainly is, because here we have an extremely high bounce rate that is affecting the rest of our metrics throughout the website. We're only getting half as many searches. We have a huge amount of page views, too many page views, and a lot of inventory views. But if I only had more searches, all these metrics would go up and I'd have more leads. So here I'm getting 288 leads out of 14,000 visitors, whereas the other store is getting 300 leads out of a fraction of the visitors, because the website is perfectly in line with consumer behavior. And we can see that in all 3 of these websites. The searches are half or thereabouts of what our visitors are. We're driving the wrong type of traffic, and we have a high bounce rate, and that's affecting the rest of our metrics and has a dramatic effect on our outcome. I hope this all makes sense, because this is a beautiful way to demonstrate how a good website metrics, what does that look like? Users, twice as many searches, twice as many inventory views, and a bunch of leads from a small amount of traffic.
Jason, I got to say, until this very moment, I didn't get it until just now. This was perfect. It's one of the reasons I love having you on the show. You are all about the numbers, and come on, car people are all about the numbers.
I appreciate that. I tell you that, I'm no genius. It's just the fact that we have now visibility into the consumer behavior, more so than just website performance. We want to look at consumer behavior, and we can understand now from the metrics exactly where our pitfalls are and where to focus our attention to ultimately affect lead-to-visitor ratio.
I'm loving this.
So that was a great way to kind of pull everything together. We started off learning what our formula for success is and what metrics make up that formula. We can't just look at shoppers, visitors, and we can't just look at leads. We have to look at the formula that makes up that success and understand where our fail point is to understand what to fix. And I hope that the path that I took to get here made sense so that we can see visibly where are those pitfalls, what makes a very high effective website, and where are you potentially losing shoppers in the process. So hopefully this has been educational, and I'd love to have some questions at this point so that we can clarify anything that was not.
I got to tell you, I'm loving this. Now, audience, if you have questions for Jason, now's a great time to send them in. And I love this statement from David. He says, okay, I don't know how you put on the best webinar I've ever seen every week, but you did it again. Jason, it was so funny because I saw where you were going. I knew where you were going, because we discussed how this webinar was going to progress. But until you put it together in that last slide, dude, it clicked for me. So I'm sure other members of the audience are, feeling the click as well. Audience, great time, like I said, to ask your questions. Before we get to those questions from our amazing audience, I want you to know it's that time. If you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, I announced that our good friends at Dataium are giving away fantastic prizes today on the webinar. And 5 of you lucky webinar attendees are going to be winning Dataium's Red Alert tool for not 1, not 2, but 12 months. It's a nearly $600 value. And, Jason, you had spoken earlier about this Red Alert tool. Before we start giving 5 of these away, can you tell us a little bit more? I mean, I know you have a lot of information on about the Red Alert tool.
Sure. Yeah, this is a report that we came up with for dealers that really brings everything we talked about today, kind of puts it in one report so that you can see exactly where those pitfalls are and where your challenges are. So again, the fact that we are completely independent, non-biased of any vendor or any product, this is the real data, good, bad, or ugly, we call it. This is what's going on in your website. What we want to look at is the change in traffic, visitors, page views, searches, all the major metrics that we looked at. You can see exactly if these numbers increase or if they decrease, just as we saw in the previous slide. And we look at our percent change so that if we make changes this week, we can look at the metrics next week and see, did we increase overall visitors or did we have a negative effect? On the scoreboard on the other side tells us where do you rank in relation to other dealers in your market. This particular dealership ranks second in their DMA, and we can see that they're consistently above average when it comes to searches and lead-to-visitor ratio. They are above their DMA average, national average, and brand average. This is the type of information you want to know. How am I doing compared to other dealers? And if you don't know that comparison point, you really don't know if you're doing good or bad. Here we have the same at a glance, all those same 5 metrics: visitors, page views, detail page views, leads, and searches. And we can see your website would be represented in one color. You have national, brand, and DMA averages, and you can consistently see how you rank, where you're failing, where to focus attention, so that you can keep growing your presence in your market and raising your rank within your DMA. Great little report.
I think this is an awesome tool, and I don't want this to sound like an advertisement or anything because it's not supposed to, but we are giving away 5 of these today, and I know from the comments that are coming in, this solution is fantastic, where can I get this, all that stuff. So I know people are going to love, love, love this. Jason, before we start giving these away, curious, is this unique to Dataium? Are you guys the only one who have something like this?
Yes, we are. And
that's all we needed to know. Here we go, audience. We're giving away 5 of these. Now, how do you win it? You got to answer a question, be the first one to answer one of these questions. We have 5 different questions, so you have 5 chances to win. We're only giving out 5 of these. Good luck, everyone. So saddle up in front of your keyboards. Usually it's the fastest typer that wins these kinds of things. So I want to wish everyone good luck. Jason, if you're ready, we're going to get started with our first giveaway question.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, everyone. Like I said, good luck. Fastest typer wins. First person to write in the correct response. Here we go. Question number 1. What is the average bounce rate of a typical dealer homepage? National average. Oh, we already have a winner. Congratulations. Winner is Christopher Franklin. Christopher Franklin, write on in and let us know what dealership you are with. And so we can give you a proper congratulations. I'm writing your name down right now. The answer was 63% is the national average. And Chris, oh my gosh, this is not the first time you've won. Concordville, Nissan, and Subaru. Christopher, congratulations. But you are sitting these next few questions out. You are already a winner today, so thank you so much, Christopher. Okay, next question. Good luck, everyone. What amount of your traffic to your website comes from all search engines combined? Let's see, do we have a winner? Yes, we do. We have another winner. John Shamansky is our winner. The correct answer was 70%. Congratulations, John Shamansky. Please, John, write on in and let me know what dealership you are with so we can give you a proper congratulations. I'm sorry, I'm writing down names. John Shamansky, you are winner, and you are from Herson's Honda in Rockville, Maryland. John, congratulations on that. Now, John and Chris, you're sitting these next few questions out, so just relax because you're already winners today. We have 3 more of these Red Alert prizes to give away. So our next question is coming up now. Good luck, everyone. What is the most important number on the VDP or any vehicle pricing page? What is the most important number on the VDP or any vehicle pricing page? Let's see what we got here. Oh my goodness. Oh, we have a winner. Our winner is Christy Johnson. And Christy, I know you wanted that. You want it. The answer is the savings or the discount price. So congratulations, Christy. Jason, just so you know, Christy was writing in, this is so awesome, I have to get it.
Excellent. Good job.
So Christy, write on in and let me know what company you're with, what dealership you're with, so I can give you a proper congratulations. So we have Christopher, John, and Christy as our winners today. So far, we have 2 more to give out. Don't worry. That's right. Christy wrote in, people don't do the math, remember? So here we go. Christy, where are you from? Okay, and we have 2 more chances for everyone else to win. So good luck, everyone. Here we go. What type of inbound traffic produces the most leads? What type of inbound traffic produces the most leads? And I already have some people writing in. I'm gonna have to ask what answers Jason will take, because I think I have a winner. I believe the winner is Bill, who wrote in direct traffic, so people who type in the URL directly. Jason, is that correct?
That is correct.
Direct traffic?
Exactly
Okay,
right.
I'm going to give it to you, Bill. You're my winner today. Bill Jackson is the winner of that one. Bill Jackson, write on in. Tell me who you're from. You already wrote in, oh yeah. Bill, where are you from? Because I can't see that information. He's from Offenburg Dealer Group in O'Fallon, Illinois. Bill Jackson, congratulations.
Sure.
Offenburg. I'm writing that down. Okay. And peoples, we have one last giveaway. Here we go. It's your last chance. Good luck, everyone. I wish everyone could win, but, you know, we only have 5 of these to give out. So good luck, everyone. And this is going to be a very interesting question. We'll see how many people were paying attention, Jason. Are you ready?
Oh, yes.
Okay. What is the major key to an effective homepage to decrease homepage bailout? What is the major key to an effective homepage to decrease homepage bailout? Let's see. We have a winner. We have a winner. Jason Cohen wrote in inventory search. That is correct. You want to have multiple navigation elements to get to your inventory. Jason Cohen, congratulations. You are our fifth and final winner today. And I would love to know what dealership you are from. So thank you so much, everyone, for playing. Wasn't that fun? I love giving away lots of stuff. I totally get to channel my inner Monty Hall. Jason Cohen is with DCH Brunswick Toyota. DCH Brunswick Toyota. Okay, congratulations, everyone. We have Christopher Franklin, John Shemansky, Christy Johnson, Bill Jackson, and Jason Cohen, and everyone else for playing. But thank you so much, and congratulations to all of our winners. And, of course, we want to also thank Dataium for their incredible generosity. Jason, that was so much fun. We're going to get started on questions now. Okay, audience, if you have some more questions for Jason, now's the time to put them in. As a matter of fact, Christy Johnson, one of our winners, she wanted to know, does the Red Alert dashboard have the ability to pull in multiple dealers? So it would be a great solution for ad agencies, but would also be a great solution for dealer groups, I would assume. So Jason, does that do that for us?
Yes, there are. The Red Alert report is a single website report, but it can be generated for multiple websites. You would have a different report for each website, but then there is a roll-up dashboard that can put all of your, if you have a dealer group, we put all the websites on one dashboard as line items, and you can see them all lined up together and look at those metrics in one master location, just like we were looking at here. This is a snapshot of one of those dashboards. It would have your dealership names, and you'd be able to track all of your dealership's metrics from one centralized location.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Great question, Chrissy. And and I also should tell the, she said thanks for sharing. And Chrissy said it's great news we have a dealer group. I should also tell all of those 5 winners, Christopher, John, Christy, Bill, and Jason, that you're going to be hearing directly from somebody over at Dataium regarding getting that Red Alert set up. So congratulations again. Okay, let's go to this next comment. This one came in from Tony, and he says, high bounce on one page may be okay, but not on another. So if we just have a high bounce rate on that one page, should we also be looking for high bounce rates on other pages, Jason? Or is it really just the home page that we're mainly concerned with?
You know, that's a great question, and there is your web providers and other metrics companies can help you. Also, you really want to look at least once or twice is the bounce rate per page type, and what that means is we look at search results pages. What's the bounce rate, and what's our bounce rate from vehicle detail pages? Because that number will tell you how effective that page type is. So it is a very good practice to do that analysis at least once to say, what is my highest bailout page? And that page either should be redesigned or eliminated because we know that that's where we're losing shoppers in the process. So I would highly recommend looking at bailout rates at least once on a page type basis so we know where we are, where that oftentimes there's one page in the website that people get to where there's no call to action, there's no way to back your way out, you can't search inventory, and you don't know that all the time because you don't play with your website as much as a consumer does. So if there's a dead page, we call it, we want to get that out of the process. And so yes, I highly recommend looking at bounce rates per page type so that we can eliminate any dead ends. Good question.
Great question. Thank you so much for that question, Tony. It's funny, Bruce had a great comment, and he wanted to know, could a high bounce rate be caused by many visitors who are coming just for our phone number to call us, because who uses a phone book anymore? I don't know that there's any way that we could possibly know that from just looking at the bounce rate. Is that the kind of information that we could collect, Jason?
Well, that's another great question, and yes, we want to look at both. So bounce rate does include a time element. When they hit your home page, if they're on that home page less than 3 or 4 seconds, then we know that they were unable to really do anything, much less even be able to get a phone number fast enough to call. So we do put a time frame around how long they're on that home page, because you're right. If they stay on the home page for several minutes, that's a sign that they could be using that phone number, and that obviously is what we want. So yes, we don't want to consider everyone a bouncer, but we look at how long they were on that home page before they bounced out. If it was 3 or 4 seconds, we know that was not enough time to really perform any type of behavior. But we also want to, the bounce rate is very indicative of the of how the home page is designed. And so the higher the bounce rate typically means the less quality traffic. But you're right, we don't want to rule out the people who came there for a phone number. That is a large group of people.
Right, right.
The time frame we put around that typically eliminates that anomaly.
Gotcha. Great question, Bruce. I wanted to get to this comment made by Joey when we were, discussing all these bounce rates. He indicated that he has super low bounce rate on his organic searches that come in from organic, and again, super low bounce rate from those direct. But he has a 60% bounce rate from those people who come in from social. Is that something that you're seeing, Jason, in the numbers that you have over at Dataium?
Exactly right. That's a very good point to bring up. Social and pay-per-click, we see the highest bounce rates because the consumer is not highly engaged in shopping behavior. And so when we look at pay-per-click, for example, if they're coming to you with some obscure keyword, a string of keywords that is not directly related to a vehicle purchase, those people typically have a high bounce rate. And we also see people coming from social, if they link from a social media site to your website, they also have a high bounce rate. Now, I can't answer the question why that is. The data often doesn't tell us why people do what they do. Human behavior it's hard to measure, at least why people do certain things. But we do see that social media, direct traffic from social media, does have a high bounce rate. That's not to say social media is not a very important aspect of the sales funnel, but I would not measure social media in the same way that I would measure other advertising, in that you won't get a lot of searches and vehicle detail page views and leads. It's a very indirect type of a shopper and lead submission.
Right. Great question from Joey. We actually have another great question from him coming up. I want to get to this question from Dave, a very good friend of the show. He wants to know what your comments are about bounce rates from vehicle detail pages.
So I guess the question is, if you have a high bounce rate from a vehicle details page.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. He said, what about bounce rates from VDPs? So that's the question. Do you happen to have those stats?
I don't. I do, but I don't use those, because here's the conundrum there. The vehicle details page view, the vehicle details page typically gives consumers multiple ways to contact the dealer. We don't know if they picked up the phone and called you. So we look again at vehicle details page views as a clear indicator of if they don't submit a lead, it is a clear indicator and direct correlation to higher phone calls and higher foot traffic. So I prefer not to look at a bounce rate from a VDP page, except for the fact if it's extremely high and extremely consistent. It's typically one of two things, or one of three things. The email form, the submission form, was not clearly defined. Perhaps it was below the scroll of the page. The vehicle imagery wasn't good enough to represent that vehicle, or strictly pricing was not attractive enough, or was too obscure. So if you do have a consistently high bounce rate from vehicle detail page view pages, it's going to fall in one of those three categories: the lead submission form, the vehicle imagery, or the pricing model or pricing strategy that you're using. It's a good question.
Now, when you say vehicle imagery, is bigger better? I mean, the bigger pictures look nicer to me, but
always.
Always?
And with bandwidth the way it is, with speed, with processing the way it is, these large, high-resolution images are a big key to consumer lead submission. Now, what's ironic is this is a kind of a side note. During daytime hours, we see high internet traffic. The peak hours for automotive shopping is between 2 and 4 o'clock on Monday and Friday afternoon.
Really?
Well,
That is so odd.
And where are those people from 2 to 4 in the afternoon on Monday and Friday?
They're at work.
They're at work. It's the afternoon lull. It's when you get that nap time feel, and they go online and shop for cars. What's ironic is they typically do not click on the enlarged vehicle imagery, but at nighttime, post 5 and 6 o'clock, there is a huge spike in people who click on the enlarged image tab. So I guess the rule behind it is they don't want their boss to walk by and see a full screen image of an F-150 Harley Davidson. They save that for later on at night. So they'll search for vehicles during the day. They'll do more detailed research and analysis at night from home. It's just an interesting aside. But imagery, vehicle images is extremely important, as well as it has to be in the same color as the vehicle, preferably the same options in trim. You don't want to show a leather vehicle if the vehicle doesn't have leather on it. And another very interesting stat is over 52% of all vehicle purchases involve or are made by the female buyer. Even if it's a married couple or whatever the case is, the female is making over half of those vehicle purchase decisions. The most important aspect to a female shopper is interior usability. So if we're not showing interior pictures and doing a good video walk around of an interior, we are not catering to over half of our half of our buyers.
Okay, as the woman who does the shopping in my house, I have to agree with absolutely everything you just said. Because that's absolutely how it goes down in my house. So, but curious, since you know when most shopping takes place online, do you also know what day and time most leads are submitted?
I would know, but I don't have the answer off the top of my head. It's a great question. I'll probably I'll send it. I'll send it out to you afterwards, and we'll submit it.
Okay, good. Okay, this next question comes from Joey. He says, do you have metrics on vehicle comments versus no vehicle comments for lead conversion?
Oh, I'm sorry. And we're talking about, let me get back to
I guess on the VDP, if you have vehicle comments versus no vehicle comments, I've seen VDPs where they actually, some dealerships take the time to, write, oh, this was a car that was driven by an old lady once a week to church. They have all that stuff.
That's exactly right. And another great question, and I'm sorry I didn't bring that up sooner. A good description of that vehicle, along with the options, the one owner, the non-smoker, the four-wheel drive, vehicles who have text descriptions specific to that car have a lead submission rate of almost 30% higher.
Ooh.
Great
Wow.
question. And that's a very important aspect. People want to know about that car, not just the vitals, but the history on it. A little more insight into that vehicle. Also, if there is anything wrong with that vehicle, if it's a used vehicle, it's very okay to put that in the description. In fact, consumers are very appreciative of knowing if there is anything wrong. You can mention that in the description. It's a huge trust builder. It's a great credibility builder, and it does represent the vehicle in the best light to the consumer. It's a little risky, but it goes a long way in building credibility for the consumer. Great question, though.
Thank you, Joey, for another great question. And last question before we wrap this up. Oh, shoot. I misspoke. Somebody just wrote in a question. Okay, two more questions. Jason wanted to know if there's a difference between Red Alert and Red Alert Pro. I didn't even know there was a Red Alert Pro, Jason.
Yes, and Red Alert Pro is the one that we're giving away, and the Pro actually gives you the ranking. It gives you the comparative metrics. Red Alert itself is really for dealers who don't have any sort of website metrics tool from their provider, and so it gives them basic web metrics. The Pro adds the comparative line, so you can see where do I stack up. And so, good question. Yes, that we want you to have the Pro version because I feel that the comparative metrics is really the key in understanding where to focus attention, where can I increase effectiveness and performance.
Wow. Jason, thank you so much for pointing that out. So all you winners out there, you're getting the Red Alert Pro. Boom. All right. Tony has the next question. I hope I get this right. He says, stock versus actual on new. What is the conversion percentage difference?
Yes, great question. We actually will be coming out with a white paper very soon.
Oh, yeah?
We're doing with a company that provides stock images on new vehicles. And we had the same question. Do stock images or actual images on new cars, is there a big difference? And what we found so far is there's not. As long as the stock images that you're using are very reflective of that vehicle, mainly the color of the vehicle itself and multiple angles is very important. It's to show the actual color of the vehicle. And also, as I mentioned earlier, a good mix of interior and exterior. And we really find that 10 or 12 images is the minimum that you want to really represent that vehicle well. Vehicle detail pages that have 12 or more images have a much higher lead submission rate. And so that's your minimum pictures these days. But we don't see a lot of difference in stock images versus actual on new cars, unless it's a specialty vehicle like a Harley-Davidson F-150 or a Roush Mustang. Those type vehicles, you always want to put actual pictures because those buyers are very specific and very picky as to what they're going after. Good questions, though. Stock images, with the quality of the stock images these days and the amount of those stock images, perfectly fine to use for new vehicles.
Great questions from the audience today. Tony, that was a great question as well. Oh, he already wrote in. Thank you, Jason. So with that, Jason, I'm going to tell you another awesome, scintillating, amazing webinar from you. I love that you come in here and the stuff is not just theory. You're putting out the numbers that you guys are collecting from all over the country, and it is really, really fascinating. Thank you so much, Jason.
I'm honored. I really want to thank you, Eliana, and DEALERUN for the continuing education on these webinars. I attend webinars that even though I don't present, and even I learn every time I attend one of these webinars. This is great education for dealers. These are free ways that they can help maximize their performance. And my hat's off to DEALERUN for promoting this type of education.
You're very kind. Jason, I hope it won't be another 9 months before I get you on my show again. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. I want to tell the audience, yes, we recorded this. So a link to download a copy of this webinar recording is going to be emailed to you in just a few hours for your reference. So please share it with friends and colleagues. This was really, really good. And today's webinar is also going to be posted online within 24 hours. So all you have to do is go to dealerun.com/webinars and click on the on-demand link that's on the right-hand side. And there you can view this webinar as well as all of our previous webinars. And I hope you do that. And also, this webinar is going to conclude in just another minute. You're going to receive a short survey. So fill it out because we're always looking for great feedback from our audience. And we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes, another chance to win. So I hope you'll do that as well. Now, invitations are going to be going out tomorrow for our next webinar. And it's a good one too. Breakthrough Facebook advertising strategies that sell more cars with none other than Brian Posh. Have you heard the big news? Because there is pretty big news out there. Facebook recently partnered with Pulp to match car owners to their Facebook profiles. So this is a pretty exciting new development, and it's going to allow car dealers to create targeted advertising campaigns through Google AdWords that are more precise than ever before. And this new strategy is going to save you time, and it's going to increase your ROI tremendously. So we're going to have this 1-hour webinar with Brian Posh. He's going to sum it all up for you. He's going to clarify the changes, explain the importance, and then he's going to walk you through this new way of marketing to customers. So be the first in your market to leverage this exciting new marketing channel and learn about the pitfalls of doing it the wrong way. This is your chance to learn how to increase the ROI of your digital advertising campaigns with social media advertising, so you don't want to miss it. It's going to be another can't miss presentation by your friends at DEALERUN. And don't forget, DEALERUN's weekly webinars are held every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And we have some great webinar subjects planned for the rest of this year. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, hey, contact me directly. I love hearing from you. My name is Eliana. You can reach me by email at eliana@dealerun.com. You can track me down online. I'm on all the automotive social networks. And hey, I just want to thank you. Thank you for spending this time with us today. And I hope to see you all in a future webinar in our continuing education series. Have yourselves a good one.